We got breaking news out of the NFL where the Lions are signing running back Isiah Pacheco. That's per multiple reports. Pacheco spent the first 4 years of his career in Kansas City. Last season, he racked up almost 600 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns for the Chiefs. Pacheco will likely fill the role of David Montgomery in the Lions' backfield, who was traded to the Texans last week. Back here in studio, joined by 10-year NFL vet Lige Douzable. I'm Claudia Bellafato. Some big news out of this, and the issue with the Chiefs last year is they weren't very explosive, and Isiah Pacheco was a big part of that. Now he joins the Detroit squad. We were so used to seeing the two-headed monster back there. How do you see this working?
You're just seeing Sonic and Knuckles, right, in the backfield. David Montgomery, to your point, has moved on to the Houston Texans, so they needed somebody to be like that physical presence. Dan Campbell is synonymous with having a physical offensive line. They want to be a physical running team. And they just didn't find that balance last year between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, which is why they traded him away. So hopefully Isiah Pacheco, to your point, right, there was a lot of upside for him, and then he had that injury, and he just never bounced back from that, Claudia. And you see it right there, his numbers between the 2 years, 2022 and 23. Very productive guy, not as productive the last 2 years in the backfield for the Chiefs. And when you look at it, for a good portion of the year, Patrick Mahomes led them in rushing. So hopefully this fresh start, 2 years removed from the injury, we'll be back to seeing the old Isiah Pacheco. That is what the Detroit Lions are banging on. They need that physical presence in the backfield. Pacheco can provide that.
So you do think we'll see more of the 2022-2023 season?
Hopefully, with coming back from the injury.
And you think it'll help having Gibbs back in the backfield with him?
Without a doubt, because now he won't be the bell cow in the backfield. When he was with the Chiefs, they expect him to be RB1, to carry the workload, to take some of that pressure off Patrick Mahomes, and he wasn't able to do that. One, I don't think he was truly 100% healthy, but then the way the offense flowed, it just didn't flow right as far as what they wanted to do to be balanced running the football. So with Isiah Pacheco splitting the carries with Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe he'll be a lot fresher going into the game. Maybe this second iteration of Isiah Pacheco will be significantly better than we saw the last couple of years with the Chiefs. Because again, Claudia, he was banged up in Kansas City. Hopefully he's 100% healthy now. And again, now the pressure's not on him to be the #1 guy.
And as we know, the Chiefs will be just okay because they have Kenneth Walker.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Lige News will appreciate you. Let's take a look at some of the other free agency action going on. The best available free agents, Trey Hendrickson still there at the top of the board. Kyler Murray, plenty of teams still looking for quarterback answers. Rasheed Walker there, offensive tackle. Woolen in the secondary. Plenty of names still available up for grabs in the NFL free agency. Of course, a name we're always talking about until he retires. We're going to break through some of the biggest names here. Joined in studio by 10-year NFL vet Lige Douzable. I'm Claudia Bellafato. The name that we have been talking about forever, because we never know what he's doing, is Aaron Rodgers. We still don't know if he's going to stay with the Steelers. Based on the moves the Steelers have been making, you would think he remains. If he doesn't, where's the best landing spot, or is that the best landing spot?
Yeah, there's two teams. The Steelers make a lot of sense. There's synergy there. His old coach, Mike McCarthy, is there. And you talked about it, Claudia, the moves they made in the offseason. You would think those are moves headed towards them having a veteran quarterback, i.e. Aaron Rodgers. The Minnesota Vikings make a lot of sense, and there was rumors when Aaron Rodgers was about to become available to be traded to the New York Jets that there was a spot after he left the Jets. Minnesota was a spot he wanted to go to, but they decided to go with J.J. McCarthy. And when you look at it there, they have all the subsequent pieces they need to have an explosive offense. Now, Aaron Rodgers isn't the Aaron Rodgers of old, the back-to-back MVP Rodgers, but he played adequate football last year and actually played really good football for the Pittsburgh Steelers, keeping them up to date as far as getting them into the right plays, knowing where to go with the football. So, yes, even though he is getting up there in UNC status, he can still throw the football down the field. And you see it right there, his ranking is all-time history, second in MVPs, fourth in passing touchdowns. Aaron can still spin the football. So the Steelers make a lot of sense just because the synergy between him and Mike McCarthy, but also the Minnesota Vikings make a lot of sense as well because they're looking to bring in a veteran quarterback.
Wouldn't it just be so easy, though, if he could just let us know, if they could just let us know?
That's never happening. Aaron moves on Aaron's time.
That's very fair. Okay, from Aaron to another player we're constantly hearing sort of drama revolve around, and that's Tyreek Hill. As we know, he parted ways with Miami. Interesting to see you have the Commanders as a good landing spot for him.
I do, and this is depending on his health, right? When defensive coordinators turn on the tape of Tyreek Hill, it scares them to death just because he can blow the top off the defense. So just imagine him and scary Terry McLaurin with JD5 as the quarterback. Now, they do have Jalen Lane, who's a young guy that they drafted last year who has a lot of speed, but why not bring in a guy like Tyreek Hill, who's going to be a future Hall of Famer, who can really blow the top off the defense and open up the middle of the field for scary Terry McLaurin. And you see it, most 50-yard touchdowns in NFL history. He's top 4 in NFL history. That's how explosive this guy is. Now, again, it'll be how he comes back from that gruesome-looking injury he had last year with the Miami Dolphins. But if everything checks out medically, I think the Commanders, who have a ton of money to spend, make a lot of sense for Tyreek Hill.
And a better quarterback situation, a better offensive line situation, as he made it very clear he wasn't happy the last few years. Last year dealt with the injury, but even before that, playing 17 games, he didn't even hit 1,000 yards, so I'm sure he would be very happy with that move. Another receiver, as a Patriots fan, it pains my heart to see Steph Diggs already out of New England, but that he is. And this would also pain my heart to see him go to the Dolphins, Lige.
Well, this would make him, play for 3 out of the 4 teams in the AFC East side, right? So, like, usually teams you play.
Which usually win a Super Bowl.
Exactly. Usually the teams you play against a lot, they usually tab you in free agency. And he wasn't a free agent. He was released, so now he's available to be a free agent. And to your point, he still showed that he's a guy that can be a possession receiver, that can be monumental and pivotal on third downs. That's where Drake May was going with the football on third down. Everybody knew it, and they just couldn't stop that connection. So I don't know where the Dolphins would find the money, Claudia, because right now they're still over the cap. They're still paying Tyreek Hill, and they're also paying Tua Tagovailoa. But if they were able to matriculate some numbers, get under the cap, I think Stephon Diggs paired with Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane in the backfield will make a nice 3-headed monster for the Miami Dolphins, who just signed their new quarterback in Malik Willis. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that would be a great fit. I'm sure him as a player, he just wants to get past a certain point, which he could not do with his last 2 squads, although nobody expected him to go to the Super Bowl with the Patriots. So I'll leave that out there. Let's move to defense. Bobby Wagner, again, a name that everybody knows. I love this fit. The Cowboys, because, of course, after saying goodbye to Micah, their defense really just fell apart. Historically bad last season. So having a veteran presence like that could be a huge boost.
And to your point, that's why I have him tabbed to go to the Cowboys. To bring in that veteran presence, he's probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And even though he doesn't have the speed that he used to have, Claudia, he's still a tackling machine. They lose Kenneth Murray via free agency. Right now, he's a free agent. And they have DeMario Overshown. Who better to learn from than Bobby Wagner if you're a young DeMario Overshown? So they've had so many issues on this defense. You see how bad they've been when you talk about most points per game allowed in the season. They were abysmal last year. 30.1 points per game. That offense literally had to go out and score 40 for them to win games. Bring in a guy that can be the captain of your defense, get everybody on the same page. They traded for Quentin Williams last year. That was a big get as well. They get some of those young secondary players back. You need a veteran in the middle of that defense like Bobby Wagner.
Another big defensive name that we're familiar with is Von Miller, and he's been pretty outspoken. He said, I would like to stay with the Commanders. If not, a team I would be interested in is the Broncos. Neither of those teams you have, though. You're looking at Philly.
Yeah, I think the Philadelphia Eagles make a lot of sense. Now, again, like I was talking about Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to get the Von Miller, the guy that was defensive MVP of the Super Bowl or MVP of the Super Bowl. But this is a guy that's still at the grisly age of 36, had 9 sacks last year. So he could be a situational rusher for the Philadelphia Eagles. And we talked about it earlier with Bobby Wagner and having a young defense. Well, Von Miller could help this young defense for the Philadelphia Eagles. He can help some of those young defensive linemen, show them how to be pros, and he could be a guy that could come in on third down situationally and get after the quarterback. Let's not forget, they thought they had Jalen Phillips signed under contract, and then the Carolina Panthers came in and swooped up under them and got him to sign there. So there's a void on the outside when you look at pass rushers and you look at the notable free agent departures. They lost Jalen Phillips, Nakobe Dean, and Reed Blankenship. Why not bring in a guy like Von Miller? Remember, they brought Brandon Graham back as that veteran presence. Bring in Von Miller, a guy that could still get after the quarterback a little as a situational pass rusher and help some of those younger pass rushers really develop.
Yeah, as we're speaking of age and we're talking about experience and veteran presence, Cam Jordan is another name that comes up. And when we talk about age, like, Aaron Rodgers of the world, health is massive. And Cam Jordan's gone 3 straight seasons of 17 games.
He doesn't miss games.
That, multiple of 16. He stays healthy.
And I'm so glad you brought that point up, because this is why this was a perfect pass from you to me, and I'm going to dunk it. Because the one thing the San Francisco 49ers have dealt with, health issues. And why not bring a guy like Cam Jordan in? To your point, 3 straight seasons, 17 games. He hasn't missed a game. And again, still productive as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
10.5 sacks last year. So when you look at that defense, they have so many guys that are injured coming back from injury. Why not bring a consummate pro in there? They've already brought Mike Evans in, who has dealt with some injuries the last couple of years, but you haven't had that issue with Cam Jordan. Right there, you see all the highest paid players and the games they missed for the San Francisco 49ers. These are, frontline starters.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa, Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, Fred Warner. Bring in a guy like Cam Jordan. Now, I can't imagine him in another uniform besides New Orleans, but Cam Jordan to the 49ers makes a lot of sense. One, because he's usually always healthy, but two, he's a veteran presence that can really help that young D-line.
Yeah, and a guy like that would love to be surrounded by some real talent, which New Orleans hadn't really been able to give him. 16 games every other season outside of those 3. It's really impressive. Lee J. Dewsbull, appreciate you. And here's a look at your shortest odds to win